with an update on Sasha Banks and Naomi returning to WWE and more. This is Wrestling Hub. My name is John and you're watching the Wrestling Report for August 2nd. Before we get into the rest of the video, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Hub and turn on all notifications to stay up to date with everything in the world of pro wrestling. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Wrestling Hub Official and follow us on Twitter at Wrestling_Hub. Talking to Ryan, sad and out of character, Eric Bischoff had this to say about AEW when comparing it to WWE. The product is boring. It's just nothing new has happened. Nothing has changed. Nothing has emerged. Nothing has evolved. It's the same formula. Up until recently, the same process. We're talking about WWE, which is by far the dominant company. There is no competition. AEW is not competition. No matter how much Tony Khan wants to believe it is, it's not. We're in the same business, Tony. That's not the same thing as being in competition. You're not taking market share, Tony. You're just in the same business. It's kind of like having a mom and pop hamburger stand on the corner and saying that you're in competition with Arby's. You're not. Speaking to fans during StarCast 5, former WWE star Johnny Gargano talked about his NXT storyline with Tommaso Ciampa, saying they made the most of their angle. The story of me and Tommaso was really honestly just things working out for us. As everyone knows, Tommaso tore his ACL in that match, which required him to go get surgery. If he doesn't tear his ACL, we have that match much sooner. We have that match probably a month or two later at another takeover, like probably 2 months later at a takeover. So the fact that Tommaso tore his ACL really gave us an opportunity to really let that story breathe. I think in the current climate of wrestling, fans and us as a culture, we want it now. Like I'm watching a YouTube video, I don't even want to watch a 10-second ad. I hit skip ad because I don't want to wait for the thing. But the injury really made all of us wait for Tommaso to come back to have the match that everyone was waiting for. No, at that time I was kinda just living in it, and I really didn't realize what it would become. Obviously, we all hoped it would become a huge deal. We didn't realize it would become even more. I think we all got incredibly lucky. My story of NXT is a lot of injuries happening and us making the best of how things work out. I think that's how anything works, happenstance. How the universe works. Things work out best for people who make the best out of the way things turn out. We did that a lot in NXT. Recalling his role in WWE Creative on the sessions, Bryan Danielson revealed that he enjoyed that time. The pandemic was happening. Somebody in one of my segments, it was right before Brie was about to give birth to our son Buddy. It was a month before that. Somebody in one of my segments got COVID. They called me and were like, "You were in a segment with somebody who got COVID. A bunch of people in the segment got COVID. You might have COVID." I tested and didn't have it, but I requested, "I don't think I should come to work. My wife is pregnant and due soon." They were fine and great with that. Bruce Pritchard called me and said, "I know you're gone, but would you like to be a part of the creative team in meetings?" They were doing them through Zoom. I said, "Yeah, I loved it. I know a lot of people have talked a lot of crap about writers. It's a thankless job. There are a lot of smart, fun writers." On Busted Open Radio, WWE Hall of Famer Road Dogg spoke about the previous Wednesday night ratings war, saying no one in NXT thought they were competing with AEW. This is how I look at that. I'm trying to calm down a little bit before I react or respond. I don't think NXT lost the head-to-head battle. I don't think it was ever meant to. I think things got out of hand a little bit and USA agreed to a deal for NXT and Vince McMahon wanted that to be what it is now. He wanted it to be a total tryout thing. Put these people on TV, we'll see if they stick, and we'll get them up here. Hunter has a different philosophy. Train them, make sure they're good to go before you put them on TV. It's two totally different philosophies. Speaking from NXT, and I say this from sitting in every meeting when it was black and gold and writing, producing, and directing, we never once thought we were competing with those guys. We looked at ourselves as a developmental program. I hope for AEW they weren't thinking that beating a developmental program was a notch in their belt, because it was people nobody had ever heard of on a Tuesday night against Chris Jericho and Jon Moxley. I always thought that was apples and oranges, and you can tell I take it personally because I worked there. Of course, we wanted to beat them, but we never thought we were in competition or had to write for competition. We just wrote the best show we could. Speaking about reactions to Ric Flair's final match at StarCast, Dave Meltzer revealed on Wrestling Observer Radio that the interesting thing, and I've gotten a lot of feedback on the show, is that people who were at the show live thought the main event was like this fantastic match, and almost everyone who watched it on TV thought it was an absolutely horrible match, which is a really interesting dichotomy because there was so much heat, tension. Jarrett did a good job and the people were just so into Flair that somehow it overwhelmed the fact that Flair literally didn't and couldn't do a thing. But there were people who were just like, oh my god, this was this phenomenal match. With fans wondering why Austin Theory was not present during Raw last night, he took to Instagram to reveal some sad news as he wrote, "I don't know where to begin to explain how much of an impression you made on me. We always had a good time and we always laughed. I know you're flying high. Rest easy, uncle." On Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer discussed previous plans for Liv Morgan to be involved in a storyline with the Judgement Day before she was moved to SmackDown. Originally, that was the Liv Morgan spot, but she's on a different show now. But yet, in theory, there should be a woman to take out Rhea Ripley, and I'm figuring Rey Mysterio ends there in some form or fashion. It's been teased and they kind of brought up, rated a promo, saying how we're former champions and we have like a bond. So it felt like, that Edge and Rey are going to be put together, and where Dominic fits in, I guess we'll find out. In a press release from this morning, WWE Today announced the appointment of Craig Stimmel as Senior VP and Head of Global Sales and Partnerships. Stimmel, who previously held leadership roles across Snapchat, Procter & Gamble, and NCR, will report to WWE Chairwoman and Co-CEO Stephanie McMahon and WWE Co-CEO Nick Khan. As head of WWE's Global Sales and Partnerships division, Stimmel will be a key member of the company's senior management team, responsible for overseeing day-to-day operations and leading WWE sales organization while expanding its roster of sponsors and promotional partnerships. Stimmel spent the last 3 years as head of global brands at Snapchat, where he was responsible for creating and leading the company's global brand organization. Prior to that, Stimmel served in various leadership positions across Procter & Gamble, including overseeing partnerships and marketing ideation for the company's media investment team. In a post on Facebook, Mick Foley touched on attending Ric Flair's final match, as he also cleared the air on rumors of potential heat with The Undertaker. "My son Hugh went along for a boys' night out with Dad, and what an amazing night we had. Not only did I get to put my daughter's boyfriend Frank the Clown in his place, but we took in some great matches. I saw some old friends and was part of the joyous atmosphere backstage, the likes of which I've seldom seen. I did not even know that The Undertaker was coming until about 20 minutes before he arrived. It certainly was good to sit with and reminisce with someone I had so much shared history with, and no, there is no heat whatsoever between me and The Undertaker. Great matches come and go. On the occasions I had to headline pay-per-view shows, you walk through the curtain after the match and the crew is breaking down the arena, and there's only a handful of your colleagues who haven't hit the road. WrestleMania would be the major exception to that rule. But last night, there was this amazing sense of history and joy backstage. I am so glad I had a chance to be a part of a great night of wrestling history." Talking to Metro.co.uk about Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins said that the American Nightmare will be looking to get revenge. I'd like to get a win over him, so yes, I think there's definitely more there. I would imagine if he comes back, he's probably going to be gunning for me, so whenever he does return, I would assume I will have a target on my back. Given the leadership changes in WWE, The Observer pointed out how WWE stars could be feeling nervous over losing their spots on the main roster. I thought Raw was definitely better, but again, the original stuff is going to be better, and we'll wait and see. It's going to be several weeks before everything's positioned. There's going to be some people who I've heard from some talent, and generally they are positive, but there are definitely people who are worried that they're going to lose their spots, and there will be some people who will, because you're going to have different visions of who the top people are, and not everyone can be a top person. With Becky Lynch appearing to be injured following her match at SummerSlam, it seems that she will be a babyface going forward, as Meltzer discussed this situation. I saw a photo and it looked really bad. And when I saw the photo, it's almost like, man, it's like this would be something that you would, if it was a fight, they would have stopped it immediately if the referee was close enough to see that, but in wrestling, they don't. They rarely stop it, and she gutted her way through, and even in her interview, she said it was incredibly painful to do the match, and it looked it. When you're talking about, severity of the separation and everything, the photo that I saw, it looked pretty bad and out months. Timing is what it is. They immediately transferred the heat instead of the idea that she got it in the match. It was from that glam slam being thrown on her shoulder, right? Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, and there's no point in putting the heat on Bianca Belair, so they created that thing to put the heat on Bayley and Dakota and Io. In regards to the potential return of Sasha Banks and Naomi to WWE now that Triple H is in charge of creative, The Observer noted that that's what I'm hearing. If everything goes the way it's expected to go, Sasha and Naomi will be back. Yeah, I don't think that the deal was done. I mean, it's been reported the deal was done. When I asked people in the company, it was basically, yeah, that's what it looks like is going to happen. But it's not like it's 100% done, or everything's been etched in stone. But the expectation is that they'll both be back, which there's going to be that, and I'm sure there's going to be other people that were unhappy and will probably be back as well. Following Raw last night, Fightful has reported that there is a renewed spirit in the WWE locker room. As it said, there's a lot of positivity coming out of the show regarding both Ciampa and Mustafa Ali being put in good spots where they could shine on the show. A top wrestler outside WWE also noticed the increased focus on the women's division. There is a stark contrast from just weeks ago, but especially post Royal Rumble in January after a chaotic scene that left many unhappy. Thus far, after speaking to over 24 talent, we've not had anyone raise particular concerns within the roster about Vince McMahon no longer being in creative, which speaks volumes. PW Insider additionally noted that when it came to a match, most of it was called on the fly. We were told that a big part of what made the Sheamus vs. Drew McIntyre match so great on SmackDown last week is at least a sizable portion of the match was called in the ring versus every single spot laid out to them ahead of time. And this was your pro wrestling news update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later.